And welcome to At the Cutting Edge, Quinte Health Care's podcast about all of the innovations and changes in our services in healthcare at QHC. I'm Dr. Dick Zoutman, and I'm your host today. With me today in the studio is Deanie Engels, pharmacist at Quinte Health Care, and Dr. Bob Bates, who is chair of the Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee at Quinte Health Care and a longstanding member of the Department of Family Medicine at QHC. Well, today we're going to talk about pharmacy, things, drugs, and cost savings relating to drugs. This is a huge part of the practice of medicine, and we wanted to talk to you all about some of the changes that are going on in QHC, about the use of drugs, and about thinking about proper drug utilization. We've introduced at Quinte Healthcare a drug utilization project where we're looking at drug utilization to optimize our use of these expensive products and to get the very best results for our patients. So, Deanie, why don't you tell us all what the drug utilization project's mandate was?
Our mandate this year was to save a total of $250,000. So that was for this fiscal year. And next year we have an added $100,000 that we need to try find savings for.
So are we going to have to worry about the quality of care because we're just saving money?
Absolutely not.
Our goal is to effect savings and at the same time improving the care that we deliver. So our goal is to reduce the usage of drugs that aren't effective, improve the use of the effective drugs, and at the same time save money. So certainly to date, we believe that we haven't cut anything that's going to affect patient care, and we've reduced the use of medications that aren't very effective.
So more drugs isn't always better therapy, right, Bob?
Less drugs is better.
Often, quite true.
Always.
So, Deanie, this project had an interesting process. How did we go about tackling this difficult mandate?
The way we first started it is to take a look at our drug costs, and we decided to look at our top 50 drugs. So we pulled data from our Meditech computer system, and using that, we circulated it amongst, there was a select group that was invited to start the process. We had a couple of meetings to begin with, and it was a very broad group of myself, the director of pharmacy, lots of physicians, and physicians from all of the Quinte Health Care sites. So we had family physicians, ER physicians, I believe we had surgeons. It was a very broad and diverse group of people who sat at these initial meetings. So what we did is we looked at our top 50 because these are our biggest costs throughout the organization, and people threw out ideas. We had a whiteboard with sticky notes, and any ideas that were brought to the table. I was given about a time period, I think, of about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, to look at all of the ideas that were generated and to see whether or not there could be any cost savings realized based on these ideas.
Well, that's great. And I remember being at that meeting, and it was an exciting one and very vigorous, and everybody really seemed to be engaged. Now, after we had the first round with the corporate look at the drugs of the top 50 across the whole hospital, I understand now that we've gone to each department and we're looking at them individually for a deeper dive. Is that right, Deanie?
Absolutely. So far, what we've looked at the OR because they're very specialized. They use drugs that are not in the top 50. And we mostly dealt with the anesthesiologists because amongst physicians, they actually use the drugs. They administer the drugs that are used for their patients. So they have a real knowledge of what they use and how they use it. So we were able to get a lot of feedback from them about possible savings. So we've done it so far with the OR. We've looked at the emergency department. And this is the emergency departments across all 4 sites. So there's representation from all 4 sites for this. And then we've also looked at the ICU. And the ICU is near and dear to my heart because I am the critical care pharmacist here at the hospital. And I was able to bring a unique perspective because I understand the processes of how the drugs are used there.
That's great. Now, I understand you have some interesting examples of where we've made specific changes. One of them is an antibiotic, azithromycin. What happened with that one, Deanie?
There are a couple of things that we did with azithromycin. One, we have what are called automatic stop orders here at the hospital. And for antimicrobials, the automatic stop orders, or ASOs, as we like to call them, are for 10 days. However, for azithromycin, the duration of therapy is only 5 days. And what we had noted in the pharmacy was that oftentimes patients received more than 5 days of therapy. Now, for this particular drug, there is no benefit for patients to receive more than 5 days, as you well know. So what we did is we changed our automatic stop order for azithromycin from 10 days to 5 days. Another thing that we did with azithromycin is we have there are several medications that are just as good to be given IV as they are to be given orally. Now, azithromycin, it is always given with other antibiotics, almost always. So what we have done with that particular drug, as well as restricting it to 5 days only, is if a patient is able to take the medication orally, then we automatically change it in the pharmacy to the oral formulation.
Well, that's great. Well, that's an interesting example. And I understand one of the other drugs is Teotropium and Ipratropium. And what happened there?
Well, these two drugs are both used to help patients breathe more effectively. They have the exact same mechanism of action. However, tiotropium is a long-acting agent. However, when patients come in, usually with exacerbations of COPD, they will get higher doses of ipratropium. While still, and what we had found in the pharmacy is that they were still getting their tiotropium or their Spiriva. Spiriva is a very costly agent. And again, there is no benefit for the patient to be receiving both ipratropium and tiotropium. So again, this was another auto substitution that was approved at this group. It went to P&T, it went to MAC. And what we did was, if a patient was getting scheduled doses of ipratropium, and not as needed, but scheduled, we would hold the tiotropium. So the tiotropium was held until the scheduled ipratropium was discontinued by the prescriber, and then we would restart the tiotropium. And this is giving us a lot of cost savings, and it's not adversely affecting patient care because, again, like I said, there's no advantage for a patient to be on both agents.
So those are really just very good examples of simple changes that we can make in drug utilization that has a huge impact on costs and appropriate use of drugs and saves us money at the same time.
Absolutely.
That's great. So, Deanie, as the leader of this project, what past experiences that you have had have helped you, and what other things did we put into place at Quinte Health Care that helped this project be successful?
Okay, I do have a background in drug utilization. I used to work at Kingston General Hospital and was the drug utilization management pharmacist there. So it gave me the background I needed to sort of take on a project of this magnitude. When I first started here at Quinte Health Care, getting drug usage data out of Meditech was very, very difficult. And one of the things my director was able to get for me was a program that was written to extract patient-specific data out of our Meditech system and have it automatically go into an Excel spreadsheet, which would allow me to manipulate the data. And being able to have this tool is one of the major reasons why this project has been successful, and I've been able to look at our drug usage data and make estimates for how making a change with the cost savings that could be realized for making that change.
That's great. Yeah, data is everything in this business, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, Bob, what about reducing costs while not compromising patient safety? Is that compatible?
Very. A lot of the drugs we use, or at least some of them, are used inappropriately, or we use drugs commonly when there's no benefit to the patient. So one of the examples of this is a drug Colace for constipation. And patients admitted to hospital frequently have constipation, and it's important to keep their bowels moving. because a lot of the treatments that we do make them constipated. So historically, we've used Colace for years and years and years, and increasingly there's data to say that it's of no benefit. It doesn't soften the stools. It doesn't promote bowel movements. And we spend a lot of money on this medication. So this was a golden opportunity to reduce the use of a drug, a medication, that's moderately costly because of its widespread use and has no benefit for the patients.
That's right. I gather that we were spending $15,000 a year on a drug that had no value.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That seems unfortunate. So, Bob, last word to you, thinking into the future about how the world of prescription medications is changing so rapidly, what advice do you have for all of us in terms of, looking at how we're using drugs and keeping drug utilization under control?
I think every time a physician examines a patient, they need to carefully examine the treatments, the medications, and all treatments that the patient is receiving. And the longer one stays in hospital, the longer the list of medications. And after you get more than a handful, they start to interact, and the benefit is less and less. So I really believe that every time you see a patient, you need to carefully examine the list of medications and treatments that the patient's receiving and reduce the unnecessary and dangerous drugs that aren't beneficial to the patient. And that's something that we as physicians, especially those of us that work in long-term rehab and continuing care, try and do every time we see the patient.
That's right. Take a look in the medicine medicine chest at the same time you're examining the patient.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, listen, Deanie Engels and Dr. Bob Bates, thank you very much for joining me today on At the Cutting Edge here at Quinte Health Care. I want to also acknowledge Rick Harrington from Quinte Broadcast, who's helping us do this recording today with their excellent equipment here at Quinte Broadcasting. Thank you very much for joining us today at the Cutting Edge, and stay tuned for more podcasts about what's new and improving here at Quinte Health Care.